It started with a single, terse press release that rippled through Tinseltown like an earthquake. Robert De Niro will not appear in any further Martin Scorsese films. Those 8 words dropped last night and suddenly silenced the industry. For nearly 50 years, De Niro and Scorsese have forged one of cinema's most legendary alliances, from the gritty streets of Mean Streets to the late-night reverie of Goodfellas, from the tortured glory of Raging Bull to the reflective cadence of The Irishman. Each collaboration felt destined, each performance infused with raw honesty. Now, as Scorsese charts a course toward new visions and younger casts, De Niro faces a painful truth. The curtain is falling on an era that defined him as an actor and shaped the imaginations of movie lovers around the world. When news agencies flashed the announcement at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, social media erupted. Hashtags like hashtag Last De Niro Scorsese and hashtag End of an Era trended within minutes. Fans scrambled to streaming platforms, queuing up classic scenes: De Niro's bloodied face in Raging Bull, Travis Bickle's haunted monologue in Taxi Driver, Jimmy Conway's cool menace in Goodfellas. Tributes poured in, tweets recalling how those films galvanized generations, Instagram reels montaging De Niro's chameleonic transformations, Facebook posts sharing myths of how Scorsese once rewrote scenes on the spot to capture De Niro's spontaneous brilliance. Yet beneath the nostalgia lay a collective ache. As if cinema itself had lost its North Star, De Niro's own response was equal parts dignified and heart-wrenching. In a short video statement posted to his official channels, he began, "Working with Marty has been the single greatest privilege of my life." His voice trembled slightly as he continued, "We've pushed each other to places we never thought possible. It's more than a collaboration. It's a brotherhood forged in creativity, conviction, and countless late-night discussions about character and purpose. That chapter may be closing, but those stories will live on in every audience member who ever sat in a dark theater and held their breath." The clip ended on a long, contemplative pause, De Niro's gaze drifting beyond the camera, eyes glossy with unshed emotion. To understand why this announcement lands so heavily, one must trace the arc of De Niro and Scorsese's relationship. It began in 1973 when a young Robert, fresh off his Oscar-winning turn in The Godfather Part 2, teamed with a bold new director on Mean Streets. The film's frenetic energy and unflinching look at street life set the stage for decades of boundary-pushing work. In Taxi Driver, 1976, De Niro's "You Talkin' to Me" became an instant cultural touchstone. Raging Bull, 1980, saw De Niro gain 50 pounds, physically embodying boxer Jake LaMotta's tortured spirit, earning him another Oscar. Over the next 4 decades, they explored moral ambiguity, Casino, faith and redemption, The Last Temptation of Christ, and the twilight of criminal empires, The Irishman. Each project was a testament to De Niro's fearless immersion and Scorsese's visionary direction. The synergy between them went beyond actor and director. In countless interviews, both spoke of a mutual challenge. Scorsese pushed De Niro into emotional depths he feared, while De Niro taught Scorsese to trust instinct over exposition. They bled together on set, De Niro cycling through grueling physical transformations, Scorsese chasing shots through rain-slicked streets at dawn. Editors later pieced together hours of raw, sweaty takes into tightly coiled masterpieces. Their partnership felt unbreakable, a creative force that thrived on tension and respect in equal measure. Yet the announcement confirms what many sensed: time and evolution have intervened. Scorsese's recent projects have embraced ensemble casts and expanded global perspectives, while De Niro, at 79, has slowed the physical extremes that once defined his performances. As Scorsese reaches for new narratives, adapting epic novels, championing emerging screenwriters, and nurturing fresh talents, the director has made the difficult choice to leave behind his most iconic collaborator. It's a reminder that even the greatest artistic alliances must sometimes yield to shifting visions and the inevitability of change. For De Niro, who has built a storied legacy on his work with Scorsese, this moment marks both an end and a beginning. In his statement, he hinted at new collaborations with international auteurs, indie filmmakers, and passion projects that ignite his creative spark. Yet the void left by Scorsese's decision is undeniable. Those late-night chat sessions, the shared notes scrawled on napkins, the almost telepathic understanding on set, those rhythms will no longer govern his career. We'll explore the emotional, professional, and cinematic fallout of this parting. We'll hear from Scorsese's longtime crew, from De Niro's fellow actors, and from critics who have followed their journey. We'll analyze how this split reflects broader trends in Hollywood, where shifting allegiances and changing markets redefine what it means to create enduring art. And we'll consider how De Niro can reinvent himself, drawing on decades of mastery to forge a fresh path beyond the man who helped define his legacy. Within minutes of the announcement, the film community erupted in equal parts sorrow and shock. Twitter lit up with threads chronicling De Niro's unforgettable moments in Scorsese's films, gifs of his twitching nose in Taxi Driver, clips of his voice cracking in Raging Bull, and montage reels from Casino's casino floor. Fans tagged friends in urgent pleas. Rewatch every De Niro, Scorsese movie before it's too late, and don't miss your chance to see the duo one last time. Streaming platforms scrambled to spotlight those classics on their homepages, labeling them end of an era collections. On IMDb, page views for Mean Streets spiked by 600%, while sold-out virtual watch parties formed almost instantly, charging admission so hosts could cover licensing fees and perhaps make a few dollars off the wave of nostalgia. Industry insiders responded quickly, too. Variety posted an exclusive quote from Leonardo DiCaprio, who worked alongside De Niro in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and admired their film history. I owe so much to their collaborations. Their split feels like losing mentors. Joe Pesci, De Niro's co-star in Goodfellas, told Deadline that he was devastated, but hopeful his friend would find fresh inspiration. Even Jodie Foster, who starred with De Niro in The Brave Who Fell, shared a heartfelt Instagram tribute, recalling nights on set when De Niro would quietly coach her through difficult scenes, a generosity invisible to the cameras. Members of Scorsese's crew spoke on condition of anonymity about Marty's decision. One longtime editor said he understood the desire to pursue new voices after half a century. Marty has to keep pushing boundaries. Robert will always be in his heart, but change is essential. A production designer recalled how De Niro's presence on set lifted everyone's energy, joking that he inhabited each character so fully, you forgot you were at work. Their collective sentiment was that losing De Niro as a collaborator would alter the director's creative DNA. Even if it opened doors for younger talent, at film festivals, programmers scrambled to adjust lineups. Tributes at Cannes Classics and TIFF began featuring marathon screenings of Scorsese, De Niro works, accompanied by panel discussions on their impact. Film schools quickly rescheduled classes, adding joint lectures on the pair's methods, from script to synergy, Scorsese and De Niro in conversation, and flagged upcoming student projects that paid homage to their style. Archivists dusted off rare behind-the-scenes footage, promising public exhibition for the first time, a final glimpse at their creative process. For De Niro himself, the news triggered logistical and emotional ripples. His reps confirmed that he would not promote upcoming festival appearances. He planned to attend the Venice Film Festival screening of his latest independent project, and would instead use that time away from public engagements to reflect and rejuvenate. Insiders say he's considering a sabbatical, possibly retreating to his upstate New York farm for an extended period of writing and meditation, distancing himself from the high-pressure cycle that defined his career. One confidant noted, he needs space to dream again, unshackled by expectations tied to Marty's vision. Agents and studios reevaluate De Niro's marketability in a landscape shifting toward franchise universes and streaming giants. Without Scorsese's brand behind him, De Niro's next choices could define the final act of his career. Will he embrace a return to independent cinema, pursue auteur directors in Europe, or venture into producing new talent? Offers are already on the table, from a gritty French crime drama directed by a Scorsese protege to a passion project helmed by an emerging female filmmaker in South America. De Niro's team faces a rare opportunity. Reframe his legacy through fresh collaborations rather than the familiar safety of the Scorsese partnership. At the same time, FOMO intensifies around the remaining public appearances he has scheduled. The charity gala benefiting Tribeca Film Festival, where De Niro is to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, has seen its ticket prices quadruple on resale markets. Auctions for Dinner with De Niro and Scorsese, once billed as an intimate conversation, pivoted last night to farewell conversation and sold out in hours. Collectors scramble to secure limited edition prints signed by De Niro commemorating their work together. Industry tastemakers predict that these rare moments, once casual tributes, will now carry the weight of finality, prompting each appearance to feel like a historic event. Through it all, a profound sense of loss permeates Hollywood. Studios face the realization that their biggest creative safety net has unraveled, while audiences grapple with the end of a narrative lineage that shaped their understanding of contemporary cinema. As De Niro and Scorsese prepare to close this chapter, the question remains, how will Robert De Niro redefine himself when the spotlight he once shared with Marty falls solely on him? The answer promises to reshape Tinseltown's future every bit as much as their storied past. As the dust settles on the announcement, Robert De Niro finds himself at an emotional crossroads, facing the end of the defining collaboration that shaped half a century of his artistry. Insiders say the actor spent the first morning after the news in private study, pulling down VHS tapes of their classics, listening to Scorsese's directorial notes on slow-motion takes and improvisation tactics. He needed to hear Marty's voice, one close friend confided, to remind himself of the spark that fueled their magic. Yet even as he revisited those moments, the hollow pang of loss persisted, a realization that the creative mirror he once looked into is now fading. Professionally, De Niro confronts a landscape that both venerates and typecasts him. His resume brims with towering roles: Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, Jimmy Conway. But fewer collaborators can match Scorsese's exacting vision. For decades, studios greenlit projects on De Niro's name alone, confident that his presence signaled prestige. Now, without the Scorsese stamp of approval, he must reestablish his value proposition. Will financiers still bet tens of millions on his star power? Or will he need to lean into lower-budget indies where the profit sharing aligns more with his late-career aspirations? Agents have dispatched feelers to European auteurs, Wes Anderson, Paolo Sorrentino, Bong Joon-ho, urging them to craft roles that harness De Niro's gravitas without requiring the physical extremes of his youth. Rumors swirl that Chloe Zhao is developing a contemplative Western in which De Niro portrays a retired gunslinger grappling with legacy, echoes of Scorsese's themes, yet unshackled from their partnership. De Niro's camp confirms he's reading scripts from rising directors in Brazil and South Korea, eager to explore fresh cultural perspectives. It's a strategic pivot, trading the familiar synergy with Marty for an expansive global canvas. Yet the heartache runs deeper than career recalibration. De Niro's identity has long been entwined with a creative symbiosis that felt less like employer-employee and more like artistic siblings. Scorsese's recent statement, expressing admiration but pointing toward newer voices, cut to that core bond. They were each other's North Star, reflects a historian who chronicled their first 40 years. Without that gravitational pull, De Niro must find new alignment or risk drifting in uncharted space. He's reportedly met with life coach and acting mentor Terry Kinney to navigate this transition, working through questions of self-worth. Who am I when Marty's not calling action? Amid the uncertainty, one unexpected avenue has emerged: De Niro's growing reputation as a producer of gritty, character-driven content. His Tribeca Productions label, once known for festival fare, is now courting streaming platforms for limited series. Internal memos cite a crime anthology series envisioned by De Niro himself, each season directed by a different international filmmaker, offering him a curator's role and creative input without the physical demands of a lead performance. This shift from actor to executive creative director could redefine his legacy, allowing him to champion voices he once passed scripts to, all while shaping a new era of storytelling. Colleagues note that De Niro has always thrived on challenge. In a rare interview last week, recorded before the news, he spoke of seeking the uncomfortable truth in every character. That pursuit may now extend beyond performance to the very architecture of film projects. He's in talks with the Directors Guild to host masterclasses on actor-director dynamics, sharing decades of Scorsese-taught techniques. These sessions promised not only to cement his influence on future generations, but also to fill the mentorship void left by Marty's departure. Financial analysts weigh in on the tangible stakes. De Niro's average per film fee may decrease by as much as 30% without Scorsese collaborations. Budgets once inflated by Oscar buzz and prestige will need recalibration. Yet streaming platforms, eager for star-driven content, might offer premium deals that include producer credits and back-end points, cushioning the blow. One source at Netflix suggests talks to anchor a noir-style limited series in which De Niro plays a retired detective coping with obsolescence, an art-imitating life reflection on the shock of creative displacement that FOMO pulses through the industry's veins. Directors who once waited years for a Scorsese-De Niro pairing now scramble to book De Niro himself. Film festivals reserve gala slots under De Niro's Next Chapter banners, while trade journals relay whispers of last-minute meetings in Hollywood executive suites. The actor's final Scorsese film, currently in post-production, has become an accidental event, the presumed swan song for their partnership. Critics and fans alike debate whether that work will carry the bittersweet weight of a climactic farewell or stand merely as another entry in a storied catalog. Through this maelstrom, De Niro's personal mantra remains one of resilience. Adapt and endure, he once said of his own career. If he endures the heartbreak of this parting, he may emerge with a redefined sense of self, no longer an extension of Scorsese's vision, but a multifaceted creator in his own right. The final act of this saga hinges on his next choices, roles he accepts, projects he greenlights, and the new collaborators he embraces. As Hollywood holds its breath, one question lingers. Can Robert De Niro reinvent the legend without the director who helped shape it? The moment the press release went live, Robert De Niro felt the air go still around him. He'd just finished a late-night script read, one of the fresh roles he'd lined up in the wake of his split from Scorsese, and his phone erupted with missed calls. Studio heads, old friends, and rising directors all left urgent messages. "We need you. Can we talk? Is everything okay?" But he stayed silent, sitting in the darkened living room of his Tribeca home, letting the gravity settle. This was the culmination of decades, the final curtain on an artistic brotherhood he never imagined would end. It was heartbreaking news not just for De Niro, but for every fan who'd believed in that creative constellation. In the days since, his inner circle described a man caught between grief and determination. His longtime acting coach reported De Niro showing up at their West Village studio with lined sheets of notes, ideas for monologues he'd never dared perform before. He wanted to stretch muscles Scorsese's demands had never required, playing Shakespeare, tackling obscure European auteurs, even returning to stage work for the first time in years. These choices felt both risky and necessary, a bid to fill the void left by his collaborator's departure and to prove to himself that his art ran deeper than any director's vision. De Niro's family also rallied. His wife left a heartfelt letter in his dressing room expressing pride in his courage to face this ending. His children, now adults, organized weekend retreats upstate where he could unwind amid pine forests and sketch new characters in leather-bound journals. Though the emotional sting of losing his creative mirror cut deep, these gestures reminded him that identity transcends one partnership. He was father, husband, mentor, and the spark that fueled those roles lay within him, not in any single director's pocket. Hollywood's power players watched his next steps with bated breath. Producers lined up at his door with diverse offerings, a prestige biopic opposite an Oscar-winning actress, a gritty British crime thriller filmed on cobblestone streets, a streaming miniseries penned by a rising female showrunner. Each pitch carried psychological triggers, the fear of missing out on the next De Niro renaissance, the thrill of capturing his first performance freed from Scorsese's influence, the promise of being the one to guide him into uncharted territory. The FOMO was palpable. No one wanted to be the studio that hesitated while De Niro found a new creative anchor. Yet, even as opportunity beckoned, De Niro remained selective. He spent hours poring over scripts for emotional resonance, refusing roles that felt like thin imitations of his old persona. He turned down a seven-figure offer for a franchise reboot because it lacked soul. Instead, he committed to a small independent film directed by a Taiwanese auteur whose work he'd admired but never met. The project, a meditation on aging and memory, would be shot on real locations in Kyoto, with minimal CGI and an emphasis on quiet nuance. For De Niro, the heartbreak of one ending had opened the portal to a career that, at 79, could still surprise him and the world. As the industry continues to recalibrate, a palpable anxiety has set in at major studios. Box office forecasters warn that without the Scorsese-De Niro brand, certain tentpoles must work twice as hard to capture critical respect. Marketing teams scramble to craft trailers that promise De Niro's finest turn yet. Independent, unfiltered, unforgettable. Streaming platforms draw up algorithms to highlight his solo projects under De Niro Reinvented, betting that audiences will flock to see how he flourishes outside the familiar terrain. In every campaign, the subtext is clear: catch his next move before someone else does. Looking ahead, Robert De Niro stands at the threshold of a new chapter, one defined by personal choice more than creative compulsion. He's outlined a plan to teach masterclasses at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, to executive produce a slate of emerging talent films, and to launch a podcast exploring actors in the wild, where he interviews performers about reinvention. Each venture carries the promise of fresh purpose and reminds us, that heartbreak can catalyze reinvention. The era of De Niro only under Scorsese may be ending, but the legacy of resilience that defined him long before meeting Marty remains unshakable. In the weeks following his parting announcement, Robert De Niro's career has felt both unmoored and electrified, an artist released from the gravitational pull of a single collaborator. As word spread that Scorsese would move forward without him, studios engaged in a feeding frenzy to secure De Niro's next attachment. Marvel producers quietly offered him a cameo in an upcoming Ensemble Squad film, promising a surprise De Niro moment that could reinvigorate the franchise. A-list indie financiers dangled offers to let him direct his own passion project, his first time behind the camera in decades. Even fashion houses reached out, proposing campaigns that would frame De Niro not just as an actor, but as a style icon reinventing himself for a new era. Yet De Niro has remained discerning, opting for projects that resonate with his creative core rather than chasing every high-value paycheck. At a May press junket in New York, De Niro spoke candidly about this shift. "I've always believed in choosing work that scares me," he said. "If I've learned anything, it's that comfort zones kill curiosity." That curiosity has led him to accept 3 distinct roles: the Kyoto drama with the Taiwanese director, a dark Boston crime saga helmed by an up-and-coming Irish auteur, and a cameo in a Netflix dark comedy anthology that explores generational clashes. Each part diverges from his Scorsese-era signature. One demands quiet introspection, another leans into sardonic humor, the third lets him play against type as a carefree trickster. Together, they map a broadened palette that embraces reinvention over repetition. Critics have responded with a mixture of anticipation and caution. Early reviews of his Kyoto drama praised De Niro's nuanced restraint, noting how his performance communicates volumes with a single glance. Festival programmers are heralding him as the reluctant auteur who finally steps from the shadows of his own iconography. Yet some worry. Will a career built on mercurial extremes and lightning rod tension translate to quieter, more contemplative work? Trade columns debate whether De Niro can sustain box office draw outside the Scorsese imprimatur, or if his next moves will hinge on critical acclaim rather than mainstream numbers. At Next, an industry summit held during the festival, analysts forecast his future 3 ways: as a globe-trotting character actor, as a boutique producer-director, or as a theatrical veteran returning to Broadway for roles that foreground his stage roots. Meanwhile, De Niro's influence on younger performers has never been more visible. A video montage of emerging stars imitating his iconic contours, eyebrow raises, measured pauses, voice modulations, went viral on TikTok, titled De Niro's Handbook for Actors. Acting coaches report surges in enrollment for De Niro-themed masterclasses. Learn the De Niro method. They advertise, promising insights drawn from his collaborations with Sorkin, Allen, and Loach. Aspiring film students crowd into university auditoriums wearing T-shirts emblazoned with "Follow the Lessons," as guest lecturers break down scene studies from The Deer Hunter, Midnight Run, and The Irishman. In a twist of poetic symmetry, De Niro's legacy may be carried forward less by his own screen work than by the legion of actors studying his techniques to chart their own courses. On the financial front, projections indicate De Niro's next slate could generate combined production and streaming revenue north of $200 million, even without a Scorsese credit. Streaming analytics suggest his name still draws millions of viewers, particularly for documentaries exploring his life and for curated retrospectives. Investors at media conglomerates see value in a De Niro collection platform, bundling his early classics with behind-the-scenes features and exclusive interviews. Demand for on-demand De Niro content spiked 25% after the split announcement, demonstrating that FOMO is as potent in celebrity careers as in collectibles markets. Simultaneously, De Niro's philanthropic commitments have deepened. He's announced a new grant program through the Tribeca Film Festival to underwrite first features by diverse filmmakers over 60, and homage to his own late career breakthroughs. He's also launching an annual De Niro Scholars Challenge, partnering with NYU's Tisch School of the Arts to fund immersive workshops in character development and location shooting. These initiatives point to a legacy that extends beyond his own performances, one that invests in the next generation of storytellers, perpetuating the collaborative spirit he once shared with Scorsese. Yet amid the flurry of offers, retrospectives, and philanthropic plans, De Niro remains singularly focused on interior work. In private rehearsals for a planned reading of a Tennessee Williams one-act, he's rediscovering the physicality of stagecraft, projecting his voice without a camera's safety net, walking the boards in bare spotlight, feeding off live audience reaction. Colleagues describe a hum of joyful intensity whenever De Niro steps onto a theater floor, as if he's reclaiming the raw immediacy that first drew him to acting. The heartbreak of losing his Scorsese compass may still linger, but it's already fueling a rebirth of purpose rooted in craft rather than collaboration. As De Niro approaches his 80th year, the industry watches not for one last bow alongside his old director, but for multiple new encores that will define the closing chapters of an extraordinary career. The machinery of Hollywood may have trembled at the news of his split from Scorsese, yet through reinvention and reinvestment, Robert De Niro is poised to prove that the end of one storied alliance can ignite the opening of many more, each shaped by his restless artistry and unquenchable drive to explore uncharted terrain. In the hush that follows the end of De Niro's partnership with Scorsese, the industry finds itself holding its breath, wondering what comes next for a man whose name once guaranteed a certain kind of cinematic electricity. Yet instead of retreating, De Niro has embraced this crossroads as a rare gift, the chance to redefine every facet of his artistry. Unshackled from the familiar rhythms of Marty's direction, he is free to chase characters he once admired from afar, roles in intimate dramas, parts that dwell in silences rather than kinetic fury, personas built on the firm architecture of lived experience rather than physical transformations. In doing so, he transforms heartbreak into creative rebirth. Audiences around the globe feel a palpable sense of FOMO over his next moves. Word leaked that De Niro will make a highly anticipated Broadway return in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, stepping into Willy Loman's worn shoes for a strictly limited engagement. Before tickets have even gone on sale, theater apps buckle under demand. Fans from Tokyo, London, and Sydney scramble for a fleeting chance to witness him live. Those who secure seats become part of an exclusive moment in theater history, a collective exhale shared by lucky few. Simultaneously, his international projects prepare for world premieres at Venice and Toronto. The Japanese drama he filmed in Kyoto and the Boston crime saga helmed by a young Irish director are already generating festival buzz. Critics praise the new De Niro, one whose gravitas now conveys depth through a single glance or whispered line. His decision to cross cultural boundaries underlines a global ambition, to claim the title not merely of America's greatest actor, but of a citizen of world cinema. Meanwhile, Netflix teases his dark comedy anthology cameo with a single, tantalizing question. You think you know him? The trailer cuts to black before his face even appears, sparking feverish online speculation. Subscribers set reminders, fearing they'll miss the moment De Niro redefines himself once again. Social feeds buzz. That Netflix drop can't come soon enough. The platform's algorithms pivot, highlighting everything De Niro ever did, from The Deer Hunter to Heat, so eager audiences can binge prepare for his latest reinvention that on Broadway. Theaters report sellouts within hours. De Niro mania is real. VIP rush lines form around the block, and piano bars host sing-alongs to Gethsemane, inviting patrons to get in the spirit of transformation. Around the world, travel agencies package De Niro pilgrimages, weekend theater retreats, guided museum tours of his film memorabilia, dinner reservations at his favorite Tribeca eateries. FOMO drives a cultural moment reminiscent of Beatlemania, but with the fierce gravitational pull of an actor's singular presence. His philanthropic endeavors have seized on the momentum. The Tribeca Scholars Challenge has extended its window to meet unprecedented demand from aspiring directors and actors inspired by De Niro's reinvention. Entries pour in from 5 continents, each a testament to the actor's enduring influence. His masterclass series, Acting in Transition, now films live at UCLA with tickets selling out in minutes. Crowds eager to capture his method for turning disruption into artistry. Financial analysts note that De Niro's new slate, Broadway, festival premieres, streaming, could generate over $200 million in combined revenue, even without Scorsese's name. Streaming platforms brand De Niro, reinvented, curating his back catalog to prepare viewers for his latest turn. Marketing campaigns hinge on urgency. Catch him now, before he moves on to the next frontier. Yet amid all the buzz, De Niro remains discerning. He's declined flashy franchise offers in favor of projects that speak to his creative core. The Kyoto drama, the Irish crime tale, the Netflix cameo that promises subversion rather than spectacle. Each choice signals an artist at work, not a brand in perpetual overdrive. His Broadway return, too, has been structured to challenge him physically and emotionally, proof that he still thrives on roles that scare him. Behind the scenes, De Niro's circle describes a man who spent the first morning after the split in private reflection, rewatching hours of VHS tapes of his and Scorsese's greatest scenes, not to mourn, but to let those sparks reignite his own creative fire. Family and friends rallied with whispered encouragements. Your gift is yours alone. He retreated to the Catskill Mountains for writing retreats, filling leather-bound journals with character sketches and storyline ideas. Evidence of an artist whose drive can't be dimmed by any ending that Hollywood's power players scramble to be part of his next act. Directors of every stripe pitch once-in-a-lifetime roles. Producers create bespoke deals granting him input on script, casting, and even cinematography. It's as if the world has awakened to the fact that De Niro's legacy and his future depend on choices he makes now. Each project he accepts will not only define his post-Scorsese era, but serve as a beacon for actors everywhere. That reinvention through heartbreak can yield renewed purpose. As Robert De Niro approaches 80. The industry watches not for a final bow beside his former director, but for a series of bold encores, performances that will define this late chapter of his extraordinary career. The heartbreak of this parting is real, but so is the promise of his rebirth. In every role he undertakes, in every stage he steps upon, De Niro proves that the end of one storied alliance can ignite countless new beginnings. In the hush that follows the end of De Niro's partnership with Scorsese, the industry finds itself holding its breath, wondering what comes next for a man whose name once guaranteed a certain kind of cinematic electricity. Yet instead of retreating, De Niro has embraced this crossroads as a rare gift, the chance to redefine every facet of his artistry. Unshackled from the familiar rhythms of Marty's direction, he is free to chase characters he once admired from afar. Roles in intimate dramas, parts that dwell in silences rather than kinetic fury, personas built on the firm architecture of lived experience rather than physical transformations. In doing so, he transforms heartbreak into creative rebirth,